Happy days. Okay, it started. So welcome back, Evie. I think you're like one of the first people who's been on twice. So it's a bit of a unique experience because
Oh
we don't have to do yeah, be different. So but why don't you start off by like introducing yourself again for people who haven't heard the episode before and stuff.
gosh. If they've heard my episode previously, I was a human rights law master's student at the time in Queen's University Belfast. I've since graduated that with merit, may I say. And I am now working as an immigration paralegal in Belfast and currently looking to move to Canada next year to transfer to doing more employment and human rights law based work. I still am really active in the refugee community. I am still very Jewish. I'm very active in that. So that's kind of really what my life's been lately, filled with that. And the only new thing is I have gotten a cat, and I love him, but he is most annoying sometimes.
Nice. So let's start with that. So when did you get the cat?
We got him about middle of September, so it's only really been about a month of having
Hmm.
him. He was a rescue. Unfortunately, they found like a friend of a friend found him and his siblings in a plastic bag on the side of the road, and they were allergic to cats. They needed somewhere to home them, so we did get him for free. But he is the most spoiled a cat could possibly be. He has so many toys, so many list trays, so many beds, so much love. Like he's living his best life. He has like
Hmm.
three mums all doting on him. So he's called Atticus, and yeah, he is really, really cute. He does also have an Instagram. I will plug my son's
Oh,
Instagram,
nice.
Atticus Rodeo. I'm now in charge of it temporarily, so I need to be on the content for that. But
Nice. And why did you call it Atticus? Where's that name come from?
so he has like a little mustache, and we kind of wanted to go for like an old Victorian gentlemanly name. And we just had a list of names that we were always considering when we first moved in together. I moved into this flat in July, August time with one of my best friends in Belfast. And we always talked about getting a cat, and then we kind of put it on the back burner and we said, look, if a cat comes up, if the cat distribution system blesses us with a cat, then we'll know. So we've always had a list,
Hmm.
and we just kind of went through like Atticus and like all this stuff, and we just really like stuck with that one. But yeah, he's started recognizing his name now because we yell at him
Nice.
a little bit because he's a little bit
Nice.
naughty at the moment. He's
And
still kind
so,
of going into that teenage years.
yeah, how old is he?
So he was around 12 weeks when we got him. So he's around, we reckon he was born, because obviously he was found on the side of the road, so we don't know exact dates. We reckon
Mm.
maybe the end of June he was born. And then, yeah, so like end of May, beginning of June. So he's around 4 or 5 months.
Okay, so is it quite small then still?
He
Or is it
was,
like
when we got him, he was really tiny, but he has grown so much. Like I'm looking at photos from just a month ago, but he
hmm
is still quite small, like in the grand scheme of things. Like he is quite small, but he is a bit
hmm
chunky because we keep on feeding him, which
Yeah,
is
it's easy to
also good. He's
overfeed a
growing.
cat.
Like he's still considered a kitten until 9 months. So at 9 months, we're gonna do like a cat mitzvah because me and my flatmate are both Jewish, and we really like
Hmm.
enjoy doing Friday night dinners with our cat. Like he loves joining us for services online. Like he's a very Jewish cat. So
Nice,
we
nice.
need to mark his going into adulthood.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I guess that's how it is for cats. Like when you're a few months old, that's like, you know, that's pretty significant for a cat. Because my cat is like, um, gosh, 14 or something now.
Yeah.
Which is a bit worrying to be honest, because when you have a pet that's that old, you're like, oh Jesus, they're gonna die
My
anytime.
cat at home is 17,
Okay,
and
yeah.
she's getting to the point where my mum's like, look, maybe next time you go out, come over, like, because I'm still in Belfast, obviously. She's like, maybe when you come over, we'll go to the vets. And I was like, no, that cat's never gonna die.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
chat from childhood. Like I have, even when I went through like a breakup recent, like I say recently, like a year ago, I was like in my like home to my cat. Like I was like, that cat
Yeah.
needs to stay there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I totally get what you mean, because if I'm ever down and the cat's around, like, it's just way better. They're just like such little, like, they're chilling, they're living their life. Like, when you're upset, they just that just takes it out of you. It takes out the sadness when they're hanging out.
Yeah, definitely. And I have really noticed that, like, especially going into the winter months, I normally get a little bit, the seasons, it gets darker, I'm a little bit more grumpy, and like I just had some really stressful weeks at work. So it's been really nice to kind of have something to come home to. I have my flatmate, obviously, and she's
Hmm.
amazing to come home to, but it's like kind of nice to have somebody come home who's like low-key obsessed with you. And I was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I
yeah,
love this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's why they're just little balls. I mean, compared to dogs, like they're not so happy, but they are still like super, happy to see you a lot of the time. Like, yeah, sure, sometimes they don't want to see you, but like by and large, they're still pretty happy to see you and happy to hang out with you. And it's yeah, they still are attached to you, despite people
Yeah.
thinking cats are assholes most of the time. They can be, but they are a lot of the time still like, oh, how's it going? They like to see you and stuff. So yeah, it's nice to have it. And okay, so it's getting like out of it's still you still describe it as a kitten then.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, he's like an older kitten, like a teenage
Okay,
kitten, I
okay.
would say. So he's getting a bit bigger. He's getting a little bit bolder. We took him to get neutered last week,
Oh geez.
and I thought he would kind of maybe get a bit humbled by that experience, but no, it has possibly triggered like a teenage rebellion in him. He
Hmm,
is
hmm.
jumping up way more. He can unlock doors. Like he
Oh,
can
crazy.
open doors.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know how. Like we've seen it happen, and we're just like, what business do you have in that room? Like
Hmm.
it's so hard to keep him out of places. But he's hopefully learning and getting used to it. Like he definitely feels a lot more relaxed in the flat, which I'm really glad of. But yeah, so it's sometimes a little bit of a struggle, but it keeps life interesting, I guess. So
And how does the whole getting neutered thing work? Like, you just take it. Like, how much is it? Do you have to pay for it?
like for the cat,
Yeah, because like with the vet, you have to pay for everything, right? Do you have to
so
pay to
we
get it
got
neutered?
yeah, so we had like a kitten package, which got him his shots, his deworming, and everything for the first couple months, and then it was like £75 to get him neutered.
Wow,
So, but like split between the two of us, like we
it's
did
not
like
bad. Yeah.
budget for it and things like that. But it wasn't as expensive, but it is still kind of something that it is kind of money we are burning, if that makes sense. But he's so cute
Hmm.
and so worth it. So
Yeah,
like I
it's
was
worth
like,
it. Yeah.
overall, like it is really, really nice to kind of
Hmm.
have him. But it is kind of weird. Like me and my flatmate, we used to go to like Dublin for the weekend or go to Manchester for the weekend. And now we're like, oh, one of us actually has to stay and look after the cat
Mm.
and all this stuff. So it's very confusing. So but it's definitely something we're figuring out. So that's all good.
Yeah, that's the thing with pets. That's why, like, I'd love to have a dog, but it's like having a kid. I feel like, you can't go
Oh my gosh,
anywhere
yeah.
once you have a dog. Like,
Yeah.
did you have a dog growing up?
So I didn't growing up. My parents have one now in our childhood home, and it is like that idea of they can't really just both come out for the weekend to Belfast
Yeah.
because they have to look after the dog. If we want to go on holiday, I have to like if I instead of going like I really want to go here, here's my like me, I like to give a plan A to B. This is what we're gonna
Hmm.
do, and they can't really do that. And it was, something that was really obvious when I moved to France for the first time because they couldn't just kind of pop out for the weekend. What much like I thought they kind of would because they have this dog, and I'm like, but I'm the first child. Like, please prioritize
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely a big commitment. I think cats are a little bit easier because we have friends here that could feed him and stuff like that, or friends that could cat sit. But it is like one of those things where I was like, yeah, a dog would be a massive commitment. And my
Yeah.
flatmate's not a massive fan of dogs anyways, and I'm more of a cat person. So it was pretty easy going decision for us. But yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because not only can you not travel anywhere, but also like y- we were talking about, oh, your cat's 17 now and stuff. But when if you have a dog, like when the dog dies, like oh my God, because it's so much more involved with you. That
Yeah.
looks rough. Like it's tough to lose a cat, but because it's a bit more chill, like it doesn't look
I
even
think
as
as well,
good.
like it's such a lifestyle having a
Yeah,
dog. Like you go
100%.
on
Yeah.
walks, you bond more with people who have dogs. Like I was actually kind of when I first started my new job, I started in March and lots of people were talking about pets. And I was like,
Hmm.
I don't have a pet. Like I have, a flat. I have a bunch of friends, but like I don't have a pet, and it has been a little bit easier to like kind of infiltrate the workplace when you have a pet because it's that small talk you can talk about.
Yeah,
And
100%.
everyone loves animals. Like nobody's going to turn around and go, I don't want to hear about your pet. Like nobody
Hmm.
is going to be rude like that. So it's, and especially in Northern Ireland, they love animals here. Like Ireland is a big
Really,
animal country because we have so much greenery and we have so much like walks and things. It's a massive like dog friendly place.
hmm,
So I think like for me, like it was kind of hard not having a pet to
hmm.
infiltrate like workplaces and build relationships with people because they're like, oh, I went on a dog walk this weekend, or where'd you go? And I'd be like, I went out clubbing. Anyone else relate? Anyone else relate?
Oh,
No.
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And let's talk about that. So last time we spoke was December 2023. So at that time, you were doing a master's, or had you not started yet?
No, I was like kind of halfway through.
Okay, halfway through. So yeah, tell me about that. Like, how did that go? Like, how was it starting, and like, how was that whole experience?
I think it was one of my favorites. Like I actually, since coming out of education, it's been about, gosh, it's been over a year now since I've been out of like full-time education. And I do miss it. Like I miss the structure, the kind of structure, but like it was different. I enjoy talking, I enjoy writing, I enjoy debating. Like that
Hmm.
was really, really fun. And after that first semester, I ended up doing most of my, I went to visit our friend Laura in Sao Paulo and family in Florida for Christmas. So I was doing all of my essays like on the plane or just like on the beach or something. It was, yeah, not my best work, but the best time, which is more important.
So that
So
was
I did,
December 2023.
yeah,
So was that
yeah.
after we
So
spoke then?
yeah, so
Oh
I went
wow.
to Florida for Christmas and then down to Sao Paulo for New Year's. And I
Amazing.
really want to go back again. Like I love it there. It's so great. I've been doing like Portuguese lessons. I did stop going to the Portuguese lessons in, I started doing them at the university because I got discount and I really loved the language, but the teacher was a little bit anti-Semitic. So I didn't end up going back because she kept on like really just making me quite uncomfortable. So I am doing it on Duolingo. But when I went to Paris a couple months ago and I was talking with Issa and Laura, who are obviously both Brazilian, and they were talking Portuguese, and I did understand it. I can
Okay.
understand it pretty well. It's the speaking it. I have no confidence in my accent because it's just terrible. Like it doesn't make any sense. I'm
Hmm.
just like talking it as if I am a gringo talking Portuguese, realistically. But after that, I had the spring semester. I really enjoyed my classes. I got to do my optional modules and I did medical law and crimes of the powerful, which was kind of talking about state and private company based human rights abuses and how the law really functions around them. So I actually did a project on the miners and the indigenous people's rights of Brazil, which was really interesting. And I really, really enjoyed doing that project. And then I moved on to my dissertation. That was not my favorite because I'm more of a talker than I am a writer. So I really struggled to kind of merge the two. And the kind of path I took, it wasn't my best work, but I did still enjoy the topic of, I was researching kind of what institutions and how institutions prosecute genocidal sexual violence and how it's kind of this niche where we have stuff for genocide and we have stuff for sexual violence, but how do we deal with the intersection of they're not only targeted for their gender but also for their ethnicity, and how do we kind of approach that in the law when it's not really being approached on either ends. And it was really interesting, and I really enjoyed researching it. It didn't get my best grade; it got me my worst grade, but I did still enjoy researching it, and I did definitely have like I still have friends that I keep in contact with. Like one of my friends, she's been in Chile for 6 months, so she just got back today. So she got back a couple of days ago, so we went for lunch today. And yeah, I can't recommend Queen's Belfast University Belfast enough. Like they were really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I got so many good opportunities. I hosted a podcast for Holocaust Memorial Day with the law school. I did geolocating for Global Legal Action Network's Israeli arms lawsuit that they did at the Supreme Court. So I was basically geolocating all the social media evidence to kind of verify it so it could be submitted to the Supreme Court. So I got so many good opportunities and made so many good connections. And it's definitely something I'm really, really happy with and really glad to have done. But I definitely do miss parts
Hmm.
of university life. I kind of my flatmate is still at university, she's in her final year, and I'm kind of like, oh, I'm kind of jealous of you just writing essays all the time. Like I want to do that. But no, I went
Hmm.
into after my dissertation, I went into my first big girl job, as I called it, with the Royal College of General Practitioners, Northern Ireland. And it was kind of focusing on health policy in Northern Ireland and working with the Northern Irish Assembly and everything like that, talking about general practice. And I did enjoy it. It was good. I enjoy policy work, but I just didn't feel super fulfilled by it. It wasn't what I wasn't passionate about general practice. It wasn't something like I lived and breathed. So I was wanting to go more into actually working in a law firm, and an opportunity as an immigration paralegal came up. So I made the switch, and I love my company at the moment. They're really, really great. I've just been approved to do a Canadian paralegal certification. So I can, within 6 months, hopefully, have the basis to apply to jobs in Canada for paralegals, hopefully within that company, and be able to make the move over there. Because I just, the more goes on in the UK, the less I want to stay in it. And it's kind of just become something that's always been on my mind and always been relevant. But in the past kind of couple months with protests and synagogue attacks, it's just felt like, okay, I need out. Like I can't raise my kids here. I can't be happy with my life. And the where I love Belfast, but at the same time I've outgrown it. So I want another
Hmm.
challenge. I want a new place. So I looked into Canada originally because I was dating someone who was Canadian. That ended with a big heartbreak on my side. And but I was still really interested in Canada, and I was kind of like, you know what, if this is what I had, this is the only thing I had to show for the relationship, then fair enough. And it's something that I've been really passionate about, and I'm really into Indigenous rights and Indigenous practice of law, and so there's just so many more opportunities out there. So that's kind of the whistle stop tour of my past couple years.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot. I won't be able to remember all of that. But
Yeah, no.
taking it back to the masters to begin with. So like, so what was it? What was it in? Like, so it was like, what was the title of the masters?
So it's a Master of Laws in International Human Rights Law. So it was under the law department, but we did have modules with sociology and politics and international relations. It was under the Senator George J. Mitchell Peace Institute.
Hmm.
So he was, and well, he's still alive. He's very old, but he is still alive. Was one of the American senators that was really pivotal in bringing forward the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland. So I
Hmm.
actually got the opportunity to meet him, which was really cool. One of my lecturers put me forward to have a listen to him talk, and it was really, really fascinating, talking about how he was talking about how social media has really distorted the way peace processes happen because of the either growing misinformation or the growing way in which people internationally get involved in things, that it's harder to kind of negotiate because people see they have support maybe somewhere else, which was really interesting. But yeah, so it was international human rights law, and I
Hmm.
did human rights law modules focusing mainly.
Okay, and those modules, like, it sounds like it involves quite a lot of examining like the application of a law to an issue, or like what kind of main things is it are those modules looking at?
So it was mainly covering with international human rights law, and then there was human rights in practice. We were looking at both the law itself and what it says and what institutions govern it. And then we were also looking at specific issues like the mother and baby homes, and
Hmm.
looking at civil rights, equality legislation,
Hmm.
and how human rights has kind of been applied in practice. But
Hmm.
we also I did medical law and ethics. That was really interesting, where we were looking at like the region's laws around not only just abortion or euthanasia, but also who owns bodily fluids, who owns sperm, who owns embryos, like if something happens, is that property or is that a person, and those kinds of conundrums, donors and things. And that was really, really fascinating because it was one of my optional modules, so it was something that I didn't have to take, but I really was fascinated by it, and I really enjoyed the lecture that I had. And he was very, very like he knew his stuff about it, and it was really, really interesting. So it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of variety, but mostly looking at how human rights are applied. When we also did transitional justice as well. So it was a lot of like post conflict, how do we rectify the past with the present and move towards the future? And I think, especially being in Belfast, being in a post conflict area, it's something that's living and breathing. Like, I went to a university and sat in a class as a Jewish person with people from the south, people from the north, people from Scotland, people from abroad, Catholics, Protestants, Muslims. Like, we were all there together and we all were equals, and there was never situations where I felt like, oh, this isn't safe for me, this isn't something I should be doing. But I
Mm-hmm.
know in previous eras that probably was. So I think it was like a really good place to learn this stuff, because you are going out there and seeing it on the streets. Like, you're walking down the Falls Road and there are murals to this. So it's such an active part of like just everything going on in Northern Ireland. Like, it's still very much not, it's not as forefront as it was, obviously, but like it is so much, so more informative and more kind of encompassing when you're learning it in an area that has applied it.
Mm-hmm. And what's that been like living in Belfast? Like, is it um much? Do you feel like it's much different from? Because before you were living in Birmingham, right?
Yeah,
So
majorly different than Birmingham.
okay, and so how is it different? Is it like of course the architecture is maybe different slightly, or like the demographics are different slightly, but like yeah, what kind of how's it been different for you?
I think the biggest thing is there is that shadow of the troubles that is kind of encompassing the way that people experience life, but
Mm-hmm.
it's in such subtle ways. And when I don't come from either of the communities, so when I'm kind of coming into it and I'm just there like, why has everyone got like ashes on their forehead? Like, I'm not used to seeing that. Like, or people are really big on like, I have to get out of the country for the 12th of July and things, and the Orange
Mm-hmm.
Order Day. And it just is those kinds of situations.
And
People
so what goes
are,
on the 12th of July?
oh, yeah. So sorry, I realized again, this is something that I've only learned since coming here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the commemoration of the Battle of Boyne, which was when William of Orange basically invaded and took over Ireland, and it began the colonization. But
Okay.
the Orange Order commemorate it on the 12th of July every year. It's a national holiday here, so I actually have it off work. I get Patrick's Day off and I get the 12th of July off. Nowhere else in the country have I had that. Like, I get more bank holidays essentially here, but it does tend to have, it has quite a negative connotation, because I think there are people that do the massive bonfires. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's like, they get like pallets and put them, stack them on top of each other and do massive bonfires, and they tend to burn effigies to either think like they tend to burn the tricolors, they tend to burn, there was one where they burned a boat of refugees like mannequins.
Okay.
And it's kind of, it's not anything that I would choose to go to. The idea of it makes me quite uncomfortable compared to like the idea of what St. Patrick's Day is, where it's like, oh, well, it's going drinking, wearing green. Like, that's something a little bit more, I feel more comfortable in. I worked last year during it, and then this year my parents arrived and we went like for like a walk somewhere far out the city, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just like there's lots of parades going on, and it's just a lot of people drunk in the street. And it's not necessarily something that I would say, from my perspective, I would be like, oh my gosh, like horrific, I would never associate with it. But it's just more like, it's just not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my history. It's something that is very big in like British or loyalist communities here. So it's not necessarily something that I felt I wanted to partake in or anything like that. But that doesn't happen obviously in England. So having to learn the way it is, and there are sometimes things that are, I think, massively in Ireland, in the entire country anyways, there's a massive thing of, there are things that people know that don't say. And so there's like kind of situations where, like, somebody is part of something maybe not so legal, but you don't say that. And then, but for me, when I don't know those like subtle social cues, I'm there kind of like, oh, this is what that means. And they're like, no, it means something completely different, Evie. Like, you need to stay away from that person.
Oh,
And
okay.
there is still those elements of paramilitaries. That was a word I didn't realize until I moved here. And it's definitely a bit different in the way that we talk about religion. So, like in my workplace, I'm quite, obviously, you know me, I'm very open with my religion. I really think it's important to talk about it. But in this specific context of Northern Ireland, talking about religion is like massively taboo. Even if I'm just like saying this is what I do for Hanukkah, people have so many mixed feelings and so much uncomfortability around it because there were so many
Hmm.
divides around it. And that's been quite difficult to navigate, because how do I uh, go about the fact that like I'm coming in it with like very different perspectives and trying to navigate a workplace and not offend people and not make people uncomfortable. But to me, I grew up in a very, like, we talked about religion, we talked about, you know, our experiences and our traditions and things. So for me to
Hmm.
come into a place where that's quite taboo has been a big culture shock, I would say. And the food is very different as well. They
Hmm.
love a potato here. That was not a myth when I moved to Belfast. They love a potato. Like, if it, like, I have an Ulster fry and there's like 5 different types of potatoes on my plate, and I'm like, yes, this is great.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's good if you're a fan of a potato, I guess. So it's quite different than from like living in Birmingham. I mean, it sounds like there's like it's a place. I mean, the troubles were only ended like the Good Friday Agreement was what, like 1995 or something. So it was
1998, yeah. So the
okay.
majority of people I went to uni with are what they call peace babies. So they were born in the millennium afterwards, but like their
Hmm.
first kind of couple years on Earth were still having that legacy. And there are still problems around it, and it is still something that you do kind of grow to be aware of. And like, I never heard of the word sectarianism until I moved here. And then it's like, it's basically discrimination between the sects of one religion, like the different sections. And I was like, I didn't even realize that was a thing. And then it's all over these posters around uni. And I was like, what is this sectarian business? Like, what is this going on?
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
have to say, what I do love a lot more about Ireland than England is they're good fun. Like, it's not as serious. Like, the way they kind of cope with all of this trauma that has been occurred from, multiple years of colonialism and terror, and like victims and things like that. They have such a good sense of humor and
Hmm.
they're really funny. And like, one of my friends said to me, I was saying at work, sometimes people like bully me for, not like bully me, but they like tease me for being English and not knowing Irish history and stuff.
Hmm.
And so for me, it's quite good fun, because I was like, they're making fun of me. My friend was like, no, that's a good thing. If they don't make fun of you, that's when they actually don't like you. And if they're being
Hmm.
polite, stop. Like, you're not safe.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, I see what you mean. So it sounds like it's a good fun time and stuff. And but yeah, it's like interesting to live somewhere that's like quite recently. It's like I went to Croatia last summer, and you forget that like not long ago there was so much violence over there.
I know, and it feels like another world, but at the same time, it's not.
Hmm.
And it's something that you're only like a certain, especially knowing people from whose like families are born and raised here, like there's only a certain degree of separation between something that maybe happened and those that were either affected by it, or those that were maybe involved in it or blamed for it and things. And it is such a different idea, I think, of like knowing that that was so recent, but also just how far we've come
Hmm.
as like a society to be able to kind of go, that was a thing of the past. And I think going to university, if there were people who were maybe like sticking to their trenches and kind of going, no, I'm this group, so I'm not going to associate with that group, they were more ostracized, I would say, like, because it was seen as very counterproductive. And I do get that point. Like, it was something that I knew somebody who was very like quite dismissive of Protestants because they came from a Catholic background. And although I can understand maybe their reasonings for it, I think there was a massive divide in the fact that other people, even if they were also Catholic, didn't like the way that they were going about that. And that was what was quite interesting to me, is like almost the flip side of that. And it's, if you're making it a big deal, that's the annoying part, rather than it being made a big deal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I imagine you've come across some people who are like, yeah, still, because it was so recently, you probably still met some people who were like still really didn't like the other side. But it's good that most people can like sort of get along now and put it behind them.
Yeah, I think it's the majority now, like just kind of get on with life, which,
Hmm.
you know, at the end of the day is what everyone wanted to do. Like that's
Hmm.
why the referendum happened. It was kind of going, we can't keep going on like this. But yeah, I think it's definitely really interesting in like the current political landscape and how things from like the UK or America kind of feed into these identities here. So like we have some groups like Trump and some groups don't like Trump, and some groups will like Netanyahu and some groups won't like Netanyahu. And it is so identity based still when it comes to
Hmm.
politics. That's what's quite interesting, because I don't feel like it's as big identity politics in like UK wide um like Labour, Conservative. It's not based on like your religious upbringing necessarily. Like there are Muslims that vote Conservative and there are Christians that vote Labour. Like it's not divided that way, but here it's very politically divided by identity more so, and like your identity really feeds how your politics work. And that's, as somebody who studied politics, is quite interesting, but also at the same time it's like, for me, I'm just like, yeah, but you don't have to vote the way your dad votes. Like that you can
Hmm.
branch out. But yeah, it's definitely, I did the most recent general elections. I was over here, and all of the, we don't have Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem. We have all these other different parties. So I had to like research them all because I'd never heard of these parties
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
It's so separate and so different to the rest of the UK that like it's so set aside as well, that it's just so hard to kind of relate things. Like to me, there was probably, like especially coming from Birmingham, was a massive cultural shift in not just like you said the demographics, but also the way of life is completely different here. Shop opening hours are completely different. The way that people kind of treat each other is different, and it's definitely been a shock, but it's been, I think, a really formative experience and a really good way for me to kind of explore something new without going too far out, I think.
Hmm.
So, but it has been, yeah, it's definitely really fun. And I do love the Irish. So
Hmm. Super. And so when you came to Belfast, like doing the masters, what was it like your idea of what you wanted to do, like for a job and a career and that kind of thing?
my idea was Belfast was going to be 1 year, and then I was going to hop back over to mainland Europe and live it up in Paris or Geneva or whatever, get my UN job. And after doing my master's, I not only was very disillusioned by the idea of working for the UN, I also was very aware that it's not something that realistically somebody from my social background and from like my socioeconomic standpoint can just go into. It's not cheap to intern for the UN,
Yeah, because
or
they're unpaid, right?
yes, they're unpaid. And even then, people are often, people I know that have worked there, there is this idea of like they are normally in their 30s. They have accrued a lot of work experience and masters or PhDs when they're going into
Hmm.
these roles. So competitively, I didn't have an edge. I don't come from a country that is necessarily going to want to, like, is represented quite a lot in the UN, that is very overrepresented, one would say. So getting into the UN, into these international spaces, especially from the human rights perspective, a lot of it is unpaid, which I just can't afford to work
Hmm.
unpaid. I especially living in Geneva, it's just not possible. So that was kind of the first realization. The more I looked into the UN, the more I just don't really, I like the idea of it, but in practice, I think I've been very much like, oh, it's not this perfect institution. it's actually quite flawed, and I don't know if me working for it is going to be fulfilling in the way that I want it to be and realistically helpful in the long term. Like, does my contribution actually going to go towards something? So also a massive factor of that was housing prices are really cheap in Belfast. So I'm paying around last year and this year around it's around £500 a month for rent.
Wow.
That's in like a flat shared between two people, really good flat, really clean and nice.
Nice. Yeah.
And so for me, I don't personally like London, no offense. I think
Yeah, I don't really like it that much either.
it's the worst city in the world, according to me. There's too many people, everyone hates each other, like it just everything, your phone will get stolen, like it's too smoky and dirty, and I just can't stand it. So when I finished my masters, I kind of knew, okay, because of as well Brexit, a lot of the opportunities I would have to work in international organizations aren't available. I can't work for the EU. I can't go into like a job in another place inside the European Union because I would have to pay a visa, and I would have to like they're not going to give a visa to someone fresh out of uni who they don't know is going to do the job right. It's a if I had the citizenship and was able to do it, I think my opportunities would be more broadened. But even being bilingual in French, being very educated in the subjects that I know, it's just not feasible. So I decided to stay in Belfast for another year, save, kind of readjust my position, and like kind of see, okay, work for a year, gain some experience, and see where I want to go from there, because then I can maybe get a little bit more forward in the job market abroad. So the idea was to maybe move to the Netherlands and try and get an ICC internship or something. But again, the compensation isn't as good, and it's just so competitive, and I don't really feel like, I don't know, being one of the first graduates in my family, like the first and currently I think only graduate for a master's in my family, the only one that studied law, I have such bad imposter syndrome that I just don't think that I would make the cut in these places, and I just don't want that kind of rejection. I have enough of that as is. I don't really want to try that and set my heart on it and it not work. So I kind of took a step back. I went through a bit of like a bit of a hibernation. I just kind of focused on myself. Me and like my best friends, my two best friends, we all went through like breakups and career changes at the same time, that we were really bonded and just focusing on us. And that's been really, really great. Like I do salsa classes now. I have a skincare routine. I have a really good like awareness of, especially with my history, eating properly and getting nutrition and exercising properly. Like it was been a really good like reset year, I think. And it's kind of allowed me to come to the conclusion of like, no, I do want to go to Canada. This is where I want to work. This is what I want to do. And been able to kind of take a step back and go, okay, this is the visa I need. This is like, I did a proposal at work for them to cover my Canadian paralegal certification. They agreed to it. Like, I don't think I would have done that if I didn't have this extra year in Belfast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, especially our generation, we want to rush everything. We want to be Forbes top time person of the year by 25. I'm turning 25 in December. I'm not going to be getting a Nobel Peace Prize by then. And, realistically, we're not as, I don't know, like I feel like Malala is like the exception. Like we're not all going to get Nobel Peace Prizes at a young age. Like we're not all exceptional human beings destined for everything. And I love my mum, but I am an only child, so obviously she's going to say that. Like my mum, she's obviously not gonna push me back. But I think it's been like a year of kind of going, okay, I'm not above average, but that's okay. That is completely fine. And what I bring to the table is enough, even if it's not the cure to world hunger, or something mind-blowing and amazing. It's just enough. And especially I've been doing volunteering with refugees in Northern Ireland, and just kind of being a bit more focused on gratitude It kind of sounds a little bit woo woo and a little bit like woo, but working on that has been so much more better, I think, for my career, because instead of going, I need to earn this much, or I need a job to, I was working when I was working for the Royal College of General Practitioners. It was good work. It was easy work. It was great pay and great benefits. But I was not coming home every day feeling like I had succeeded in something. It was got to the point where it was draining me and really pushing it, like so much so that I was like, should I just pack it all in, become a waitress in Paris? Like, should I just do something like move to Australia and become a surf instructor? Have I ever surfed in my life? No, but that was the ideas in my head of like, this isn't fulfilling me. And as a result, I felt like it drained me so much that I I was affecting the relationships that I had with people and my friendships and my relationship with my family and relationships I was having with dating. Like, I was just so drained. I wasn't being the best version of myself. So that's my little tidbit of life. Don't do a job that you don't like, because it will kill you
Yeah,
before you
it's
get
so
a
true.
paycheck.
Yeah, I remember in my gap year, like I worked for this startup, like for the first half of it. I absolutely hated it. Like, and I remember feeling so depressed. Like, yeah, it really, all my friends were at uni, and I didn't know what I was doing. And yeah, I really got that lesson then that like doing something you don't like is soul crushing, and it's I think a lot of people in banking, like part of the reason why they have to do so much coke and stuff is like because it's just to feel like just to feel
Something.
something. Like, yeah, it's just to, I think it's when you end up getting these bad habits, like whether it's like, cheating on your girlfriend or your wife, or like alcohol or drugs, like when you do something that you really don't like, it drives you crazy. So yeah, it's good
Yeah.
that you learn that lesson now, rather than like some people stick out jobs they don't like for years.
Yeah, I think I am very fortunate that, like, obviously a new job opportunity came up at the right time, and it all kind of aligned in the right place at the right time. But like, it's never just a job. It's 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That is a
It's
good
like,
period of your time in your life. And it's not just about the work you're doing, it's about the office culture, it's about the relationship you have with your manager. And the relationship I have with my manager now is great. Like, I love my manager. Like, she could tell me to walk over lava and I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's go. Like, I have complete trust in her. She's so encouraging, and she's also just so, like, I have a really lovely team that I work on. Like, after the Manchester synagogue attacks, people in the team reached out to me to say, I'm thinking of you. I hope you're doing okay. Like, I hope you're, and like, one of my coworkers, she is kind of my favorite. So she does hear this podcast. Molly, you are my favorite. Um, she checks every single snack that she shares for gelatin, because obviously I can't have that. And she doesn't need to. She has like this little like trick or treat bowl at the moment. And she kind of said to me, like, I've been through when you can have this one and this one. And so it's those kind of things. Like, they don't have to do that. Like, they could have just gone, work it out yourself. But it was those kind of little things that she kind of realized, sometimes I can't participate. And so she tries to make it inclusive. And yeah, I love her. Like, she's my favorite. I always kill the spiders in the office for her. So
yeah,
she's my
that's nice.
favorite.
Yeah, nice. No, that's good. So all of this came, all, like, you said you had a job you didn't like, you had a breakup. So that all happened this year.
So that happened November, December, January last year. So
Okay, so that's when it all
really,
came to a head, like at that point
yeah,
last year.
I think I was unhappy in my job I'd started it in September, and I was kind of already feeling by November that I wasn't doing great. Went through
Mm.
like I say, a bit of a breakup, and it was kind of like my first proper heartbreak. And I think that's saying something, because I know I was probably a bad dater when I was on my year abroad, and I was not the best kind of person. But I
No,
think it
you're
was the
fine.
first time I met someone that I was like, oh my gosh, this is my person. And it just didn't work out that way. And I don't feel like the way it ended was maybe the way that I could kind of get closure on it. I need to know everything and I need to understand stuff. And I'm like, but why did you do that? But in a way, like, if it didn't happen, I still would have been upset at my job. I still
Mm.
would have been low because of my job. I still would have been struggling. So it was more so all this stuff kind of happened at the same time, which was horrific. Wish it didn't happen. But at the same time, I think it was kind of a good way to be excused from hating my job, because everyone was like, oh, she's just upset because of the breakup. And I'm like, my life is over. I am wasting my life. Like, I am not, I was having a whole existential crisis, and everyone's like, oh, it's just the breakup. And I was like, yeah, sure, go along, do that. But like, it's definitely, yeah, that was like a tough winter, I would definitely say. And also the year before, I was in like on the beaches of Florida and the beaches of Sao Paulo, and then it was Christmas and I was in Gosport. And I was just like, and my family, I love my family, but a lot of them were making comments like, oh, well, when are you going to get with someone? Like, when are you going to get married? And when are you going to have babies? And I was like, I am 23, like, chill. But in my kind of family, getting married, getting engaged, those are more significant than getting degrees. Like, my uncle genuinely said to me, you bought yourself an extra year with the masters and you don't have a boyfriend to show for it. And that was like a month after a very devastating breakup that he didn't know about. And I was like, I can't even like deal with this right now. And my family is very weight conscious, and that's very hard to deal with. So I was having all of this like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. And I come home to my extended family being like, why are you unlovable? Why can't you get a man? It's because you're too snarky. It's because you're too mouthy. You're too loud. And those are not any adjectives I have not heard before. But it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. So I came back to Belfast and I was like, right, I'm going to apply for a new job. And I think you just need one thing to change. Like, when you're in a rut, you just need one change. And granted, job is a big one, but I just needed one thing to go right, to be like, okay, it's a plan. Like, obviously I am religious. I do believe there is a plan for me, that things happen for a reason. And I was like, maybe this is the reason. This is a new place to go. This is the new focus. And I started volunteering more. I started going to salsa and just going out with friends and just literally avoiding every man in existence. It isn't too hard to do, because most Irish men do also avoid you. They're not very forthcoming. So yeah, like, that was kind of the reset. But yeah, like, it definitely, the pressure is always there, I think, to have this career and have this perfect life. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't line up. But also, to me, the perfect personal life I have a great group of friends. I'm always out during the weekends. I still maintain contact with everyone from the year abroad and people like all over the world. I feel very satisfied in the people I have in my life. It's just, I don't happen to have a boyfriend. So, but
and like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel for you, because some people in like the generation above, that like they make like those kind of comments and stuff, and they're like, sometimes when I hang out with my family, some people say like pretty crazy things. So yeah, I definitely feel for you, and like, it's honestly, I think one of the worst things you can do is like sort of force a relationship in that sense, like, or even force things in life to happen sooner than they should, whether it's going to university early, like just going to university for the sake of it, and not like, I had a really great friend who did retakes twice to get to university, and it ended up going really well and saved him many years probably in the long run, and he didn't rush life. And the same point with like relationships and stuff. Like, if you're just getting married for the sake of it, like, I mean, it seems like a recipe for disaster. Like, when you look at what happens when people get divorced, it's like, oh
oh my gosh. And
Christ.
also, like, I don't I don't think, the older I get, the more I don't have the energy for people I don't like. Like,
Mm,
if I don't like someone, if I'm not getting on with someone, I'm not going to be rude. Obviously, I am still a massive people pleaser, but I just don't have the energy to pretend I like someone for the sake of liking them. God
mm,
knows how miserable and insufferable I'd be if I was married to someone that I didn't like. And I think it has been a massive step back from, not so much from my family, but from that mentality in my family of, you're being a wife, being a mother is the most important title you could hold, because all of the things that have brought me so much joy, especially when I was talking with my friends about this in my past year, the things that have brought me the most joy have been my friends, have been my cat, have been like surprising my dad with tickets to go see Ray in Dublin, have been, you know, watching my mum dance to ABBA on her birthday. Those things don't involve a partner. And I'm 24. Like everyone was getting married young because you were dying young. Like we're living till we're 80 now. It is fine. Taylor Swift got engaged at 33. I have plenty of time.
Honestly, yeah, and like the like economic situation was massively different for the generation like before us and before them. Like people got, I think a big reason why people were able to have kids so much younger and get married so much younger is because you had more stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
like like when people ask me, "Are you buying a house?" No, in this economy, I can
yeah,
barely
like
afford that, and I'm still making that irresponsible financial decision. Like
100%. Yeah, and like people had a mortgage and like a car and lived somewhere that was like fairly pleasant. Like if I were to have a kid, Jesus, like so at the moment I live in this place called Stockwell in London, and it's like it's not a shithole, but it's not great. Like, it's not the kind of place where you'd want to have a kid and then like what, so you have a kid and you're like renting a place and you've only got one room of space. I mean, like it's not 1850, like
kids are way more expensive now. Like
yeah.
I like you don't have the child maintenance and child benefits that you used to have and things like that. And it's like it sounds weird, but so my god sister, like she's the same age as me. The day that I got my results for my masters, she announced her pregnancy.
Oh
And so
wow.
we're on like different life things. But I was like, if I got pregnant right now, teen pregnancy. If I get married right now, child marriage. So I'm not in the mentality for it. But I do know, and it's been so great to see her because she's such a good mom and she's really like, he is an adorable baby. But it
Hmm.
is just so mind blowing, like knowing people are in the same age bracket as you, but also at a completely different point in your life. Like I have friends who are like, I think I'm getting engaged next year. And I'm like, what? Like I was like,
Mm.
but it makes sense to them. I can't fault their logic. I like they are very much that is their person. But I was like, I don't want to do it because everyone else is doing it. I don't want to do it because, you know, if I have to get a few sympathetic pats on the shoulder at every family event, I'll take it rather than rushing in to the first person that I know who is willing to take me because that probably won't be a great choice.
Yeah,
My
100%. And
history, I don't tend to pick the best of the best.
ah,
So
it's just such a good idea to just take it at your own pace, because if you fuck up on that front, like that's years of misery. Like,
and
it's
divorces
super,
are expensive.
yeah, ruin you financially, and then like just the amount of sleep and happiness it'll rob from you is like seriously, seriously, seriously bad. So I think there's a lot of pressure. People feel a lot of pressure to do things at a certain time, and it sounds like you kind of had this period of time where you thought all these things were going to happen when you went to do the masters, and then like it looked way more difficult for these things to happen, and then so, but yeah, like you gotta take take life at your own pace, and understand that lots of great things like take a long time to happen, and like the of the last 100 years, for a lot of them it happened only after, like, like Nelson Mandela, for example. Like he was in prison for most of his life, so like
Yeah.
it only happened really at the last minute that any of it turned around. So like, yeah, like it's good not to rush things, and to just rest assured that like if you keep working hard and you keep like putting in the good input, eventually, like it might take a long time, but that's okay, and eventually it'll like figure itself out. So is that kind of like n- it's good that you got through that sort of period that was maybe a bit shaky, and like how do you feel about things now? Like, because it sounds like you got out of that period and now you're thinking about going to Canada, and it sounds like you've got like a plan.
Yeah, I think that was, I think, maybe why the crux of why so many of that like period was so hard is I felt very unmoored. I like having a plan. I like having
Yeah.
a goal to drive towards to, and I didn't have that. Like I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just going with the flow of what other people maybe wanted and trying to fulfill the things that I thought other people wanted of me. And it did sadly take that kind of low period to go, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to stay in the UK? And then I was like, no, I don't want to have, like, I've been to other places in the UK. I went to Edinburgh, I went to Manchester, and I was like, none of these places feel like they're for me. But when I was looking into Canada, that felt very much my vibe. It felt very much like this feels like it's meant to happen. So it just kind of went on from there, and looking into it through work. And I'm really lucky. My office does an educational grant where they'll give me the money back for the kind of courses that I do once I complete them, and I got that all verified through work this week. Um, it was definitely like giving myself a plan, and it's not every day that I'm like living my best life. It's not every day I'm like great. Like I still clean
Mhm.
cat poo and have to work out how to get to the vets without a car. And I still struggle sometimes with the usual stuff, like me, like just kind of I get very concerned with the way people see me, and if they like me and if they don't like me, and having learning about setting boundaries and all of that. Like it's still a work in progress, but I think I'm out of the kind of depression spiral I was in, where I was like, oh, I'm completely like a write off, like done. This is I just need to go home and lie in my bed and not do anything because I'm a cancer on society. Whereas now I'm like, do you know what? It's okay. But I do know what I found really interesting talking, especially when I was talking to Issa and Lara for my year abroad, like the way I handled things when I was 21 was very bad. But the way I've handled things now, like talking to them about the breakup that I went through and how I acted compared to the terrible years of me trying to date when I was living in France, like the way I reacted was so much more mature. The way I've handled myself is so much more emotionally stable. And like all my friends from before were like, you handled that really well. And all my friends were here were like, you handled that crazily. Like, that was weird. And I was like, for me, that was really good. Like, I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't do anything off the bat. I didn't try and threaten violence or anything like that. Like, I was really quite good. But I think a massive part about that as well was kind of coming to terms with your own imperfections and accepting them for what they are, and accepting that you're not going to ever achieve what maybe is unrealistic, and just setting yourself more realistic goals. Because if you leave every single day going, I haven't achieved this goal, you're very easily going to go, oh, well, I this is a wasted day. But if I
Mhm.
set myself realistic goals, like you should get out of bed and make your bed, I achieved that very easily, and I now have a very productive day.
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah, and
yeah,
it's
I
about
think
like
it's
those little
more
baby
about
steps towards like
yeah.
the bigger goals. Yeah, 100%. And that way you don't feel like super beat down and stuff. And so what would like the dream job be then? What would like you like to do now?
I dream job would be working in a law office or working with part of Indigenous communities, using the law to protect their native lands and protect their practices. I researched a lot of it because it's always been something interesting to me. And the more I get into it, more I'm like, I just really want to learn more about how the law is used, because this is like basically an entire legal system set up to oppress a person, and how do we use that system to free them, and how do we use it to address these issues. And I find it just so fascinating and so inspiring, and it's definitely something I want to go into is legal protections for Indigenous communities. And it's definitely something I'm just so passionate about. The more I learn about it, the more I kind of spend time reading about it or watching documentaries and things like that. That to me is more of the dream job now. It used to be UN, but I don't see that as my path anymore, which is kind of sad for 16-year-old Evie, but really good for 24-year-old Evie. Like
Hmm.
it's a lot easier to
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah, and then also like I don't know, mate, it does seem like the kind of thing people come back around to.
Yeah,
Like you
like I'm
said.
never saying never, but I think if I don't achieve it by 27, that's okay.
Yeah, honestly, like I think
Also,
and that
highly likely. Like I'm not going to be getting a job at the UN at 27. Like
yeah, yeah. But I think again, like it's the thing. people, I think when we're younger, we expect things to happen a lot quicker, but it's not that they can't happen. It's just that like, when you look at people in the last century that did great things, it took them ages to do it, really
Yeah,
long time. Like most people who did those great things, they didn't they did it when they were much older. And then also I think that the demographics now, it makes that even harder because there's like so few young people, and like the political power is kind of held with the boomer generation, so it makes things even harder. But that aside, yeah, I think it's like a good sort of path you're on now. And so that's kind of the plan then, maybe to go to Canada and get more involved with like the law and using that to protect the indigenous rights and stuff.
yeah.
Okay, nice. Well, cool. It sounds like you're doing it. And so when do you think that might happen then? Do you think that's like the kind of like
Fingers crossed. So I apply for the visa pool in December, January time, and the visa that I'm applying for is like a lottery. So
mhm,
they could call you up or not call you up, but they
mhm,
kind of send out invitations to apply every kind of few weeks from January to October. And then you have 10 weeks to submit all your documents, submit your biometrics, submit your police checks. And then as a result, then you have a piece of paper that says that you can go to Canada for this visa and with this work permit. And then I just have to book my flights and book my insurance, and it's an open to work permit. So the dream, like if everything worked perfectly according to my plan, which I think it always should, it would be I apply for it in December, I get invited around April, May time, submit my documents, get it back. I have this flat until July. A job comes up in Canada in the Calgary office because I really want to move to the mountains. And I apply for it in my job, like through my company. And then I get the job and I move out in August, September time. And so
mhm.
this time next year, I'm hoping to be living in Canada. Fingers crossed.
Okay, fingers crossed. And Calgary, where's that? Is that like east or
That's
west?
Alberta, so it's like west, but not Vancouver, and
Okay, okay, okay. But
it's
there's
kind of
that
right
mountain
up.
range.
Yeah, so by the Rockies,
Mm,
literally just above Montana.
mm,
So it's kind of cow town. It's lots of
mm.
cowboys, but it's got lots of tax breaks, which I didn't realize I would love as much. But I was
Yeah,
like, this
nice,
sounds
nice.
great and a good place to start. And maybe move. Like I kind of want to get out there and then explore other provinces and see if that's where I want to stay. I wonder, because obviously I do have French as a skill, maybe Montreal, and I hear mixed things about Montreal. Never hear anything good about Toronto. I have learned one thing
Okay.
from associating with many Canadians: the only people that like Toronto are people from Toronto. And I don't
Okay.
like the accent. The East Coast Canadian accent, I've picked up on it, and I'm not loving it. But I want to just go to all these places and be able to tick them off and just say, even if it's just for a day and I'll go, that was horrific, never going there again. At least I know,
Hmm, hmm,
and
hmm.
see what happens. So I have nothing really else to lose. I've started over in a new country or a new city. If we're doing cities, I've started my life over 3 times already, and it hasn't gone wrong yet. I've still
Hmm.
got great friends from all of them. I still keep in contact, whether it be my hometown, my friends in Birmingham, friends from France, friends here. Like I know I'll be able to start over again. And I think with the visa, it's between 18 and 35. So I'm at the best time to be doing it right now. And I need a change, and that is nothing bigger change than another continent entirely. So that's kind of where I chose Calgary. It has an international airport as well, so it'll be easier to fly back and forth, like and
Hmm.
visit other places as well. Like one of my friends, she lives in Chile. I have friends obviously Brazil, Colombia, and everything. So I'd really like to explore more of that side of the world. So
Mm.
kind of
Nice.
the fingers crossed perfect plan. It probably won't work out like that, but hopefully I'll at least be in Canada.
Hmm, hmm. Yeah,
So
and Canada's a
that's
lovely
the
country.
minimum
Like,
I'm allowing the universe to do. I was like, maybe I won't work happily, but that's the bare minimum.
yeah, no, I think it's good. It's a step at a time, and like Canada's a lovely country, and it can moving around can really like be a great new start and stuff. And it sounds like it's super relevant for the job you want to do as well. So
Definitely,
yeah, it
yeah.
sounds like you've
And
got a
it
good
was
plan.
either that or the US, and I do US immigration, and I don't fancy that. I was
Yeah, and the US is a bit crazy
US right
sometimes.
now. I think yeah. So the company I work for is a US immigration firm, so I
Hmm,
mainly do people's visas moving to the US,
hmm,
and my job is constantly messed up by the current administration, and immigration and moving there, it just doesn't appeal to me. And the lifestyle of America compared to Canada, like, it's just not what I'm looking for. It's quite competitive. It's quite, the work-life balance isn't great. And
Mm-mm.
I love that part of my job now. The work-life balance is really good. They're really, really supportive and really like assured. Like there's so much on well-being and DEI and everything that that as for an American company, they could have scrapped the DEI the moment Trump put that out there, but they were like, absolutely not. We're dying on this hill of keeping it. So it's just such an amazing company. I love it so much. I don't want to lose that to American consumerism.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. And like, yeah, America's yeah, a bit of a crazy place. So that definitely makes sense. Well, should we wrap it up then? It's been really
Yeah.
nice, Evie, to have you on. Now we're doing this new thing, where if we get a quote. So basically, I used to have this thing where I do have this thing where I have a wall of quotes. So one day we'll have that in the background of the videos. So the first person, the last guest was on, did it for the first time. So do you have a favorite quote that you want to leave with us?
Oh, oh gosh, is it going to sound a bit like conceited if I say I quote myself?
Just go
Um,
for it. Whatever
it's
comes to mind.
okay, this is to give some context. It was when I came out of going on a school trip to Auschwitz Birkenau and seeing the kind of really worst horrors of humanity. And like this quote came to me and I really like it. And it's, to survive isn't just to keep on breathing, but keep on believing. And it's always very much stuck with me. And I really love it because you can keep going physically, but if you're emotionally done, there's not really much more there is to kind of give. So yeah, stay hopeful, kids. It's kind
That's
of
it. It's all about. There we go. That's a great point. Great on that bombshell. We'll wrap up the episode. So thanks a lot, Evie, for coming on. Really, really great. It's great to have someone on again because it's like we don't necessarily, not that it's unpleasant to hear your life story, but like we can just catch up with the most recent stuff so that we actually have time to get around to talking about anything. So great to have you back on, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
yeah, it's great. Thank you so much for having me. Always great to catch up. And hopefully in 2 years' time, I'll
Yeah,
be
we'll have
calling
you
you
back
from
on. Yeah, yeah.
Japan.
Yes,
Fingers
fingers
crossed.
crossed. Okay.
Maybe my
Well,
cat will be less annoying by then. Maybe.
you're not annoying. Come on. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and yeah, thanks Evie for coming on.